tech talk. The title is Linux Installation Tips and Tricks. So as you know, we have various ways to deploy Jaspersoft in your production environment. So today I have Francois Servel joining us from Paris. He is going to walk us through a kind of a typical Linux installation and try to give you some tips and tricks along the way. So if you've never joined these tech talks before, the way that we do this is during the presentation you're allowed to ask questions in the question box, and either during the presentation or some time that we reserve at the end, we'll answer them for you. And so with that, I want to hand it off to Francois, who'll take us through the presentation. Welcome, Francois.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I will share my screen. I think that you should be able to see my screen now. Ernesto, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we're seeing your Linux desktop there. It's a bit of a trick, what you do, but yeah, we see it well.
Okay, so first of all, we want, well, just imagine that we want to make a new JasperReports Server installation on a Linux server. So we need first to know which is the architecture, and here we can see that the slide presenting the architecture, and we can see that we have here JasperReports Server, which is a web application, a Java web application, which can run into an application server, which can be Tomcat, JBoss, Glassfish, WebSphere, WebLogic, and as you know, it can be under Linux, Windows, macOS, Solaris, IX, and it needs to have a database to store its own repository. So we need to prepare all these prerequisites. We have to know which version of the application server, of the Java virtual machine, and of the database we will use. For this, we have a document which is currently showing, and we have all the information about the supported software version. So here we have to make a choice. First is the application server. In my case, I will use something very light. I will use Tomcat, and I will use Tomcat 6 in my demonstration. Then, of course, we need a web browser. I have several installed, and we need to have a database which will store the internal JasperReports Server repository. For this demonstration, I will use MySQL database. Then we also need to have a Java virtual machine. We have several possibilities, and in my case, I will use the Oracle Sun Java JDK 1.6. So let's start. Here it is my desktop, and I will install JasperReports Server on a server which is in a virtual machine. So I will start this virtual machine, but before, just we will have a look at the configuration. This virtual machine has only 2 CPUs, 2 processors, and it has only 4 GB of memory. So I will start it. My Linux is for the desktop and for the server is a Debian Linux. This virtual machine, the server, has a brand new Debian install, which is the Wheezy version, the 7, Debian 7. I just added some script to make some colors and to make some configuration, but nothing very deep in this virtual machine.
Just a quick, I'll stop you for a second, Francois.
Yes.
So you had the Platform Support Datasheet on your screen before, and that shows like particular flavors of Linux that we officially support. I just want to clarify something to you guys in the audience. So Francois is talking about Debian 7, which is like a maybe unreleased version of Debian, etc. Now, when you're using the installer, so operating systems there that you have on screen now, you see, for example, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. That's for the bundled installer. So for any other version of Linux, like there it says Debian Linux 6, we're certified. But Debian Linux 7 doesn't mean that it's not going to work. It just means you have to use the war file installer. You can't use the bundled installation. So it's just a clarification step. I get that question a lot, like, hey, we use this other, or we roll our own version of Linux or whatever. As long as you can support a JVM, and as long as that JVM can support a supported application server, we really don't care where it gets deployed. That makes sense?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry, continue. So I'll probably interrupt you like that a few more times, Francois.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I will first install the prerequisites. So my first step is to install a Java virtual machine. So I will connect to my server and I will install a Java virtual machine. But I have, for each of the prerequisites, I have several possibilities. I can install them, make a manual install from the editor's seat. So I can download Java from Oracle website and then install it, or I can use bundled, packaged installation from my distribution. In the case of Debian, Java, the Sun Java is not anymore embedded in the last versions because of licensing issues. But I can find the packages on the previous repositories. So I will, I just define in keyboard issue. Well, I will do something else. I will connect with an SSH session. So I connect to the server. Oh, I can't. So anymore, I will use here. And I will try. etc apt sources. In my source list, I have to have the squeeze repository defined to be able to install the Java from the packaged version of Java.
So sorry, I'm confused a little bit. Would it be the Oracle Java or OpenJDK?
It will be the Oracle Java, but it will be the 1.6, which is not anymore packaged with Linux distributions.
Oh, okay. Okay, excellent. So for those of you on Ubuntu, and I imagine everybody in the crowd is probably Linux users. Maybe
But
a lot
of
you are
course,
using Ubuntu, and this is going to be similar to that.
But of course, you can also download the Java JDK from Oracle and make the Oracle manual installation. it is another possibility. You have both possibilities. So in this case, I install the Oracle Sun JDK. Then I will have to also install the Tomcat Application Server on the MySQL database. And I will always use the packaged version. Why I made this choice? Because when I am a system or network administrator, I have a lot of servers, and I know my distribution. I know how my distribution package all the software. I know that all the packages are compliant to the rules, to the folder rules of my distribution. So everything is consistent. So I prefer to have something consistent on each of my server and to know my distribution logic instead of to learn the installation logic from Oracle and the installation logic from from Oracle for Java, from Oracle for MySQL, and from Apache for Tomcat, and so on. So as often as I can, I prefer to use the packaged software. So it is currently downloading the Java 6, and it will install it. I will just have to acknowledge the license, and it will be installed.
Okay. Well, while that's going on, I have a question. So just to kind of repeat what you said, you recommend to go with the packaged version of Tomcat. So, you know, there's a million reasons why that's beneficial and all that as far as updates go. So let's say you deploy Jaspersoft to Tomcat. When you do an update, is that going to do any kind of problems, like try to delete the web apps folder or anything like that?
No, in the packaged version, everything is managed. There are a lot of scripts which are executed before installation, after installation, and which have several options to be as safe as possible. And upgrading Tomcat, for example, or upgrading Java, or upgrading MySQL doesn't break anything.
Right.
So
yeah,
now
so that's actually huge compared to using the bundled installation, because then you're locked to those versions and all kinds of things. Okay, sorry, continue.
So now I have my Java installed, and I can now install MySQL. So I will do the same for MySQL. As you can see, it is very easy under Linux to install packages. I don't have to download anything manually. It will do it for me. So MySQL server. So I have to, here it is in French, sorry, because my local are in French, but it asks me for the password, so I will choose something very safe. Root.
Okay, so this is the password for MySQL. So it's important to know this one for when you have to plug it into the install scripts, I suppose.
You can, of course, you can install MySQL without any password, but you might have issues later because the installer asks for a password, and you can have issues. So you have to set up a password, a root password for the administrator. So now I have MySQL server up and running. So I will now install Tomcat. It is the same command line. I have several choices. I can install Tomcat 6 or Tomcat 7 as I want. I will use Tomcat 6.
But both of those are supported, right, by the
yes, we support Tomcat 5.5, 6, and 7.
Great. Do you recommend to stay with 6 over 7 at the moment, or?
It's just a personal preference.
Okay.
As well as we can use the JDK 1.6 or 1.7 from Oracle on the Open JDK. I prefer to use the JDK 1.6 from Oracle because I install Tomcat and then I install other web application. And I am quite sure that all the Java programs are able to run under Sun Java JDK. And they are nearly all able to run with the JDK 1.6. Even if JasperReports Server is able to be executed with the JDK 1.7, if I want to install other application, maybe the other application won't be able to be executed with 1.7. And with Tomcat 6 it is the same story, because not all the web applications are currently supporting Tomcat 7. So I know that Sun Oracle Java 1.6 with Tomcat 6 is something which is supported by nearly all the Java web applications. So now I should have a Tomcat up and running. I can try to test it. Maybe I will have a network issue with this. I have a network issue here, but I can use my Windows here. And then I have my Tomcat up and running. So I have the Java virtual machine. I have the repository database. I have the web application server. Now I need to install JasperReports Server itself. For this, I will use the JasperReports Server manual installation, because we have either the bundle installation or the manual installation. The bundle installation is a bundle which enables the user to easily evaluate JasperReports Server. It means that it was designed to enable the user to make next, 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 and it works. It installs everything. It can install a web application server, Tomcat. It can install a repository database. In this case, it would be PostgreSQL. And the end user just have to click next, 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 and it works. But in my case, if I want to use another repository database, or if I want to use another application server, if I want to fine-tune, if I want to have something very tightly integrated with my operating system, I can use the manual installer. So here I have the zip file, and I will unzip it to execute the manual installation. Of course, all the steps are very well documented in the JasperReports Server installation guide. In this guide, you can find all the steps needed to install manually JasperReports Server. Basically, I will follow these steps. Now I have my folder here. I will go in this folder, and I will go in the installation, in the buildomatic folder, which is the installation, the installer folder. Then my the installer is an Ant script. You can it has several targets which are very atomic and simple targets. it is, for example, one target is to deploy the work file in the application server. One other target is to create the repository database schema. One other target is to populate this schema, and so on. So if you want, you can run each of these scripts manually, individually, one after the other, each other. But if you want, you can also ask some kind of meta script which call each of them in the right order. But to do that, we have to configure the installer to tell him where to find the application server, where to find the repository database, and so on. For this, I will copy a configuration file, a sample configuration file. And as I use, we have one sample configuration file for each of the supported database. So I will use the MySQL sample, and I will copy it here. I will just rename it. It has to be called default underscore master dot properties. Then I will edit it. It is well documented. Well, here I will comment this line because I want.
Okay, can you go just a little bit slower, because I think when you're doing like VMC over web GoToMeeting and all that, we're getting a bit of a delay. So if you can.
Okay. So can you see my configuration file?
Yeah, you just uncommented app server type. Yeah.
Okay. So I uncomment Tomcat 6 because I use Tomcat 6 here. And then I will go one page further. I will tell the installer where to deploy JasperReports Server. So in my case, it will be in /var/lib/tomcat6/web apps.
Okay, so this location is not standard, unfortunately, on Linux installations. Like if you're on Fedora versus Red Hat versus SUSE versus Ubuntu versus Tomcat, everybody has their own little way of doing this. So you have to kind of discover what this folder is.
Yes, it is standard for each distribution. So as I try to be a system admin, I try to have the system administrator point of view, and I have all my servers which are under Linux, which are using the same distribution. So I am supposed to know my distribution, and in this case, I know that all these kind of files are in these folders.
Are you sure that you would add web apps to varlib Tomcat 6? Do you need the web apps part?
No, you're right.
Just trying to avoid that, unless this was a planned failure.
Then,
and one more thing I just want to point out. See, the line that he's editing now, app server dir, I think if you use like Tomcat 7, you have to use Catalina home and Catalina base as well, because they're kind of split out in some distributions. So just be aware of that, and that's well documented in the install guide. So you have to read chapter 5 of the install guide, unless you're doing exactly what Francois is doing, which is installing on Debian with MySQL and Tomcat 6. Then you must follow the install guide, because there's a bunch of little things you have to know. Sorry, that's it, Francois.
Yes, of course. Then I have to define what is my repository database. So in my case, it is MySQL on the local server, so local host is fine. The administrator username is root for MySQL too, for the operating system and also for MySQL, and I used the same password, so I will use it here. After the installation, when the installation completes, you can of course remove the password here. It's all what I need to do in the configuration file. I can leave everything by default then. So I will close this file. Now I will ask JasperReports Server installer to run and to use this file to deploy the web application and then to create the repository database for me. I will execute it now.
One thing, I think in the install guide it says to stop Tomcat before you deploy. Is that necessary? Like, do you usually do that, or do you know the purpose of that?
In the theory, we should. I can stop it, but it works without stopping it.
Okay. Yeah, no, you can continue. Yeah, I think if you're like a Jaspersoft customer and you say, I can't deploy Jaspersoft, they're going to ask you for the steps, and then they're going to say, oh, well, you didn't stop Tomcat. Please try it with Tomcat stopped. And so, yeah, I think as far as following the book, you have to stop it. And what Francois is saying is that probably works without having to stop it. But, anyway.
So now I ask the installer to do everything for me, and it says that something went wrong. I don't have the MySQL JDBC driver, so I have to get the jar file from somewhere else. So I will, hopefully I have it. I just have to check where it is. It is here. So
Okay, so what he's doing here, deploying this JDBC driver, we don't ship it because of a licensing issue, and you'll probably see the same thing with Oracle. I think the ones that we're allowed to ship would be Postgres, and so that's what this step is about. So you typically would go to your vendor and download it.
I have an issue. I will use the packaged version. And then I will search for the jar file. And I will copy it from user share Java MySQL connector.
I guess for very best practices, if we want to get geeky, you would probably do a symbolic link into the Tomcat lib folder, and then when there's an update, it would automatically be updated.
Yes, I could, but as
yeah, no, I know.
as it will copy, as the installer will copy it later in. It is just here for the installer, and then it won't be used again.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, and there is a property in default master properties to skip deploying the JDBC driver, just in case you ever need it, for those of you listening. Like if you want to deploy it yourself or whatever.
So now it was able to connect to my database, and the installer tries to check everything. So if you can see some failed message, it's normal because it tries to connect to the database and to use the repository schema to check if the schema already exists. So it should not. Then there is a failed message, but it is normal and the script continues. If something goes wrong, then the script will stop, and it will stop with a build failed message. And the output of the script gives you all the information you need to be able to fix the issue. So as you can see, it is creating the schema. Then it is importing in the schema. Currently, it is importing in the schema all the default repositories, default JasperReports Server repository. Then, as I told him to create also the sample databases, it creates there are two sample databases, a food mart database and the sugar CRM database. So it creates the both schema, and then it populates them. It is currently populating the sample schema. Then the script will, as he knows where is the Tomcat web application folder, it will deploy the WAR file in the Tomcat web application folder. So currently it is populating the sample database. It can take some minutes, but it is very quick.
Is there a flag? So I think we missed the command that you ran just because the update of the screen was a little slow. So you ran, I believe, was it JSant install or JS install?
Yes, under Linux, I had to explicitly specify where to find this script. So I began the command line with /js-install.sh. It is a sh script.
And then are there command line arguments like don't install sample data and that kind of thing?
Yes, we can. Yes, of course, we can add some arguments such as minimal dash install, and it will only install the JasperReports Server application without the samples, without the sample schema in the database, but also without the sample reports in the repository. As you can see here, it is currently deploying the web application. The build is successful. It means that everything went fine. So now I could start Tomcat, but it won't work. Well, Tomcat will start, but and JasperReports Server application will start too, but it has currently no license file. So I have to install an evaluation license file. Such license file is provided with the bundle, with the installation files. But you can also, if you have a commercial edition, and if you have a commercial license, you can use your commercial license file. This file has to be deployed by default in the home of the user, which will be used to execute Tomcat. In my case, under Debian, this user is called Tomcat 6. I will check. It is Tomcat 6, and I have to deploy the license file. I am not in the right folder.
Okay, so I'll just kind of update everybody while you're doing that. So he did this grep Tomcat and etc password, and we see, did you find his home folder there? Is it, yeah, user shared Tomcat 6, that's yes. His home folder. Okay. That's a clever way to find that out. I think I did it like by looking at the Tomcat process, and then I think there's a flag that you pass, something like that.
So I copy the license file. Then there is something else which is interesting. When you start Tomcat, it starts in a Java virtual machine which has maybe a limited amount of memory available. So you can change the initial memory settings in the Tomcat configuration files to have more memory. Here, if you want, in the Java option line, you can add some memory options, such as dash big X MS for the heap, or such as dash XX column perm size equal and the value. I don't use it now. I just wanted to tell you that you might need to increase the amount of memory available for the Java processes.
Well, right. I mean, if you look at this and then you look at our minimum recommended, I think I would be surprised if it even started with 128 megabytes.
I will test.
Okay. So yeah, keep that in mind, you guys. That so Francois said he has 4 gigabytes on this virtual machine, which is actually, I would say, on the lower side. Or, you know, if you're going to be running a production application, give it a lot more than 4. And then if you're going to be running the application, the database, you have to calculate how much memory that's going to take. And then you can give the rest maybe to the Tomcat or to the Java virtual machine. So I don't know if you have like a magic number, Francois, like how much you should reserve for the operating system and the database, and then how much can you really allocate?
It depends on what is running on the operating system.
Well, let's say nothing but Jaspersoft, dedicated Jaspersoft machine. even the database is running somewhere else. All you're going to be doing is running Tomcat, let's say.
I would leave at least 500 megabytes for the system, but it wouldn't be enough for a production system, I think.
Okay, so like you would leave a couple gigs maybe for the operating system and then maybe the rest. So like if I had 8 gigabytes, would you say 2 for the operating system and 6 for Java maybe?
Yes, something like that, on 6 for the Java heap, and I would configure about 500 megabytes for the permgen size in the Java memory.
Okay, great. Yeah, so remember guys, you should read the installation guide, and that's got some recommended settings. I would even go above those recommended settings in a production environment.
I will display the Tomcat log. I have an error, but I'm not sure it is important. I will try to see. So if you have issues when starting Tomcat, you can see the logs, the Tomcat log, which is called catalina.out. In Debian, in my case, it is in /var/log/tomcat6/catalina.out. It is the main Tomcat log file. Well, it says that the server started, so I will try to connect.
Yeah, so guys, if you see these logs, notice that, I mean, they look like big scary errors and stuff, but it says info. It doesn't say error. And so just don't freak out if you see an info. It might be part of just the application to show those kind of things. The errors sometimes are scarier than they really are.
So it seems that JasperReports Server didn't start. So I will stop and try to restart it. I will clean the log file to have a clean log file. And I will restart Tomcat. Oh, I have an error here. Because JasperReports Server tries to write...
I think we're seeing... Are we not seeing your screen? Are you... I think we're just seeing the browser in Windows.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, sorry, I thought you...
Yes, I was here. And here, there is an error which tells me that JasperReports Server tries to write its own log file in the web app folder, but in Debian, by default, the Tomcat 6 user doesn't have write permissions in this folder. So I will fix this.
I'm actually very glad that we ran into this, because I ran into this issue myself.
You should ask me.
So this is because you ran the script as root. Like, I wonder if you would have changed to the Tomcat 6 user and then try to run the JS install.
Yes, I could, but the Tomcat 6 user is very limited, so I'm not sure that he has all the needed environment.
Okay, and it's probably a bad security practice to make the whole application writable anyway, so you just want to make, I suppose, the log folder writable.
Yes.
Or no?
Now I will stop Tomcat and restart it. I used less to see the log file, and I used the big F to follow the file when it is written. And I have another error. I am going back to see the beginning of this error. Should you have any question, feel free to ask your questions in the side panel, the side GoToMeeting panel in the right part of your screen.
Ah, there's the issue. You see it there, cache manager configuration. You've assigned more memory.
Yes, I don't have enough memory here, so.
Yeah, 128 just isn't isn't enough.
So I have to increase the memory.
There's a few questions in the chat box, but maybe we can just follow along with you and then in the last couple minutes ask a few of them. Sorry, Francois, you have XMX in there twice. Is it going to read both of them?
Oh, yes, you're right. I will remove this one.
Sorry, and then you have, so it looks like you have XMX, XMX. Did you mean to do XMS?
I will check in the file again. Why? Strange. I will restart my Tomcat and check the log files. Oh. Yes, I have a double M at the end.
Lots of pressure doing this live.
Yes, but doing this live, I can meet the common issues that can be met when doing the installation.
Yeah, I mean, in general, try to get your Linux system administrator to carry out the steps in the installation guide. If you don't have a Linux system administrator, then maybe that's when you use the bundled install.
Now I have the permgens pass issue. So I will increase it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that you should be adding there, like headless, concurrent sweep, garbage collection, XSS, perm size. So look at the install guide for those. Do you want me to send my settings to you in chat just so you have them, Francois?
Oh no, I can. Indeed, I have my settings here too. I have a script which sets everything. I can just search. So here I changed the memory, the maximum heap size, and I will just use here a little bit more, and I increased the permgen size because I had the permgen error. And now I start Tomcat and it should work now.
All right. So there's a difference between the Catalina log and the Jasper server log. That's one of the questions in the chat box. Is
yes,
you know, if the application. Well, sure, you can go ahead and talk about it.
The Catalina log is Tomcat log file. It is because Tomcat is a web application server, and it can host several applications. So the engine Tomcat has its own log file, which is Catalina. And JasperReports Server.log is just the log file for JasperReports Server application within Tomcat. You can choose to place the log file somewhere else because by default it is written in a subfolder under the web app folder. It is not the best place if you want to centralize all your log file, but we use the log4j component, and you can configure it to place the log file wherever you want. So now it seems that Tomcat started, and I can try to connect to JasperReports Server Pro. And it works.
Nice.
And I can try. So in less than 1 hour we can install a whole software stack with JasperReports Server.
What did you call it? Wool?
Yes, a whole software stack with JasperReports Server.
I don't know the acronym.
Then we can go further because currently the web application is published directly with Tomcat. But in production, a best practice would be to hide Tomcat and to publish all the web application not in HTTP from Tomcat, but in AGP protocol from Tomcat, and then to use a front end such as Apache with the Jakarta module, and all the incoming connections will be handled by Apache and through this Jakarta module. The Jakarta module will connect to Tomcat, to the applications in Tomcat, and will be some kind of proxy. So you can have a first security line in here with some kind of reverse proxy. Furthermore, this front-end, this Apache front-end, you can add several other modules, such as the SSL module to use HTTPS instead of HTTP. So the communication between the browser and Apache will be secured with HTTPS, and then between the Apache server and Tomcat it will be just in the internal network. You can go further to protect your applications and use other modules such as mod security or DOS evasive to protect against SQL injection and denied of services and things like that. But now the application is running and I can use it. My users are able to go in JasperReports Server and to use it to create reports. I can use iReport to connect to JasperReports Server. And after some reports are created, we have to save them to make some kind of backups. For this, there are scripts which can be executed, which can do some repository export, either cold backups or hot backups. So currently my application is running. I will go in the installation folder, in the buildomatic folder, and here I have the GS export script. So I can call this script just to show you, and I will export all my repository. I can choose what I want to export, but in my case I will export everything. So I just have to say that I want to export everything. Then I want to export in a folder or in a zip file. I will use a zip file. And it is exporting the repository, the whole repository, with all the organizations, the users, the user groups, the reports, the data connections, and so on, in a zip file. This zip file is platform independent. It is nothing else but a folder structure with XML files. It means that you can export a repository from a MySQL database and then import this repository into a Postgres database if you want to change the underlying repository database. So I finished. I have an installation. I have everything I need to do my backups. Of course, to restore a backup, you have the other file, which is gs.import to import a backup into a repository. Maybe we have some questions in the chat box.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So we've gone a little bit over time. That was really nice presentation there, and so we did go a little bit over time. So I'll just pick one or two questions, and then we'll have to shut down. One question says, what does it mean license is corrupt at location /root jasperserver.license?
Well, it can be because first, of course, the license file might be corrupted, but it might also be because of permissions issue. It is strange that the license file is searched in the /root folder. It means that Tomcat is running from the root user, is running by the root user. In this case, I think it might be something wrong in the file. Maybe the wrong Jasper report server license file was installed.
Okay. Yeah, like if it's not a real license. Yeah, that makes sense. Those are good tips. And then if you could talk about the two locations that Tomcat stores JNDI configuration.
Yes, of course. When you deploy a web application in Tomcat, I will go in the web application folder. So in my case, it is var lib tomcat 6 web apps here. Automatically I deployed Jasper Server -Pro. In this folder, I have two interesting subfolders, meta-enf and web.inf. In the meta folder, subfolder, I have the web application main configuration file, which is content.xml. In this file, I have the definitions for the JNDI connections. So mainly, in this case, basically, I have three definitions. The first one is for the repository database. The second one is for the Sugar CRM sample database, and the third one is for Foodmart sample database. Of course, you can define connections from within the application itself, but it will store this definition into the repository database. And of course, for the first connection, which is the repository database, the definition cannot be in the repository database. So it has to be here. When you deploy a web application, there is this file deployed. You can change this file, and what is very interesting is that when you start Tomcat, it makes a copy of this file, the context.xml file, in his own configuration folder, which is, in my case, in /etc/tomcat/catalina/localhost here. And I have here a Jasper server -pro.xml file, which is the same as the context.xml file. And then Tomcat will use this copy for the configuration, to initialize all the connections. It means that if you want to change or to add a JNDI connection, you have to change the context.xml file in the web apps JasperReports Server Pro meta-inf folder. You update it, and then you remove the Tomcat copy of this file. And at the next Tomcat restart, it will make the copy again. It will force Tomcat to make this copy again and to use this new version of the configuration file.
Great.
Is it okay, Nestor?
Yeah, that's great. I'll just add something quickly about JNDI itself. I would consider it best practices to use JNDI versus JDBC connections directly from the UI. So you can get in a lot of trouble with JDBC connections because it means that every time a report is ran, a connection is made to the database. JNDI makes an important distinction, which every time a report is ran, a connection is taken from a pool of connections that are configured, and when the report is finished, the connection to the database is released, and so there's less connections to the database, meaning the connection, like eventually if you use JDBC, you'll typically, when you get a lot of users, you'll get an error like too many clients on your database. So JNDI is a good one for that.
Yes, when the report ends, it releases the connection, but it doesn't close the connection. So
right. But then it'll reuse it, I suppose.
Yes.
Oh, you mean with JDBC?
Yes. Do we have some other questions?
There's a few, but we're already 10 minutes over, so we're going to have to cut it off here. But I think you actually covered a lot of the questions that were asked just in the steps. So if you guys remember, there's a YouTube channel. It's in the chat right now. The video for this will appear in the next few days in that YouTube channel, and you can also look at the previous ones, the previous recordings. So there's this is Tech Talk number 12. There's 11 others that you can check out on the YouTube. Well, number 11 is about to be loaded as well. So great, Francois. Thank you so much for the presentation. I think it was very helpful. I certainly learned a lot, and I hope you guys did as well out in the audience. So until next time, well, actually, sorry, quick announcement about the next topics. The next Tech Talk actually isn't going to be until the 26th of April, so a full month until the next Tech Talk. So we'll see everybody then. Thanks again.